Hey,
Hey, what's up?
I just finished all my college English homework and I was wanting to know if you wanted to hang out tonight.
Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. I'm on my way. Hey.
Let's go downstairs. Have you heard of the new heated blanket that comes in like 20 different colors?
No way.
Yeah, I want it for Christmas and I think there's a commercial of it on TV.
Sweet.
Let's check it out.
Welcome back to KC News at 6 Central. This is Christy.
And this is Camelia, and today we are covering the latest weather report on the occurring rainstorm on Lake Superior.
Winds are reaching a high of 65 miles an hour, and amidst the downpour, lightning has struck a cargo ship, leaving it damaged and currently sinking.
The debris from the cargo ship is floating ashore while the captain is in critical condition. He was rushed to the nearest hospital where he is now getting medical treatment. Wow, that was scary.
I know. That actually kind of reminds me of this play called The Tempest that was written by Shakespeare.
Who's Shakespeare?
You don't know who Shakespeare is?
Never heard of him.
Let me show you.
William Shakespeare, also known as the Bard of Avon, is often called England's national poet and is considered the greatest dramatist of all time. Shakespeare's works are known throughout the world, but his personal life is mostly a mystery. Although no birth records exist, there were church records that were found that indicate William Shakespeare was baptized at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon on April 26, 1564.
From this, it is believed he was born on or near April 23, 1564, and this is the date scholars acknowledge as William Shakespeare's birthday. William was the third child of John Shakespeare, a leather merchant, and Mary Arden, a local landed heiress. William had two older sisters, Joan and Judith, and three younger brothers, Gilbert, Richard, and Edmund. Before William's birth, his father was a successful merchant and held high official positions of office resembling a mayor. However, records indicate Shakespeare's father, John, lost most of his fortunes sometime in the late 1570s.
Small records exist of William's childhood and almost none relating to his education. He most likely attended the King's New School in Stratford, which taught reading, writing, and the classics. Being a public official's child, William would have without a doubt qualified for free tuition at his school.
William Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway on November 28, 1582. Hathaway came from a small village a mile west of Stratford. William was 18 and Anne was 26. Their first child, a daughter named Susanna, was born on May 26, 1583. 2 years later, on February 2, 1585, they had twins named Hamnet and Judith. By 1597, civil records show that at this time Shakespeare purchased the second largest house in Stratford, calling it the New House for his family. Hamnet, one of the twins, later died of unknown causes at age 11.
In the 20 years of Shakespeare's playwriting, he was known for capturing the complete range of human emotion and conflict. By 1599, William Shakespeare and his business partners built their own theater on the south bank of the Thames River, which they called the Globe. In 1613, during a performance of Henry VIII, the theater burned to the ground all in less than 2 hours. After the loss of the Globe, the theater was quickly rebuilt. It remained the home for Shakespeare's old company until the closure of all the theaters under England's administration in 1642. With no longer a use for it, it was demolished to make room for tenements in 1644.
Over the course of 2 decades, from 1590 to 1613, William wrote a grand total of 37 plays revolving around several main themes: histories, tragedies, comedies, and sometimes all of those themes in one. In William Shakespeare's final period, he wrote several tragedy comedies. Among these are Measure to Measure, The Winter's Tale, and The Tempest.
Prospero was the protagonist of the story and Miranda's father. He used to be the Duke of Milan before his own brother conspired with the King of Naples to overthrow Prospero's position. He has spent the past 12 years working on strengthening his magic so he can one day have his revenge.
Miranda is our next character, who is Prospero's daughter. She has lived on this island for most of her life. She has never seen another man besides her father and Caliban, a man who has lived on the island before them and is now Prospero's servant. Miranda is mostly naive when it comes to other people, and she's very caring and a generous person.
Ferdinand is the son of Alonso, the King of Naples that helped usurp Prospero's dukedom. Ferdinand is also caring and naive like Miranda. He is so in love with her, he agrees to be Prospero's servant to win his approval.
The play begins with the ship traveling to Italy from Africa. A large storm hits and the ship is struck by lightning. The passengers begin to fear for the worst. The men from the ship land on an island inhabited by a girl named Miranda and her father Prospero. Prospero reveals that he is a magic being and that he struck the ship because of one of the men aboard took his position as Duke of Milan. These men are responsible for sending Prospero and Miranda to the island, where they have now been for 12 years.
Prospero calls on his magical servant Ariel for assistance. Ariel brings Ferdinand to Miranda so the two can meet. They immediately fall in love, and Ferdinand becomes Prospero's slave. In the meanwhile, the other men from the ship are worried about Ferdinand, so they begin searching the island, although they are almost sure he is dead.
Our scene begins with Ferdinand carrying logs on Prospero's request. He is stating how nice and sweet Miranda is and that her kindness is refreshing to him. Miranda comes in and the two start having a romantic talk. Miranda wants Ferdinand to rest, but he insists that he must get the work done. Miranda offers to help him carry logs, but he will not let her. This leads to them professing their love for one another, and by the end of the scene, they are engaged.
There be some sports are painful, and their labored delight in them sets off. Some kinds of baseness are nobly undergone, and most poor matters point to rich ends. This my mean task would be as heavy to me as odious, but the mistress which I serve quickens what's dead and makes my labors pleasures. Oh, she is 10 times more gentle than her father's crabbed, and he's composed of harshness. I must remove some thousands of these logs and pile them up upon a sore injunction. My sweet mistress weeps when she sees me work, and she says such baseness had her never like executor. I forget, but these sweet thoughts do even refresh my labors, most busiest when I do it.
At last, now pray you, work not so hard. I would the lightning had burnt up these logs, not that you enjoyed to pile. Pray set it down and rest you. When this burn, 'twill weep have worried you. My father is hard at study. Pray now rest yourself. He's safe for these 3 hours.
Oh, dear mistress, the sun will set before I shall discharge what I must strive to do.
If you'll sit down, I'll bear your logs the while. Pray give me that, I'll carry it to the pile.
No, precious creature, I had rather crack my sinews, break my back, than you should such dishonor undergo while I sit lazy by.
It become me as well as it does you, and I shall do it with much more ease. For my good will it to yours is against. You look wearily.
No, noble mistress, 'tis fresh the morning with me when you are by at night. I do beseech you, chiefly, that I might set it in my prayers. What is your name?
Miranda, oh my father, I have broke your hest to say so.
Admired Miranda, indeed the top of admiration, worth what's dearest to the world. Full many a lady I have eyed with best regard, and many a time the harmony of their tongue hath into bondage brought to my diligent ear. For several virtues have I liked several women, never any with so full so, but some defect in her did quarrel with the noblest grace she owed, and put it into the foil. But you, oh you, so perfect and so peerless, are created of every creature's best.
I do not know one of my sex no woman's face remember, save from my glass mine own, nor have I seen more that I may call men than you. Good friend, and my dear father, how features are abroad I am skill less of, but by my modesty, the jewel of my donor, I would not wish any compassion in the world but you, nor can imagine from a shape besides yourself to like of. But I prattle something too wildly, and my father's precepts I threaten to forget.
I am in my condition, a prince, Miranda, I do think, a king, I would, not so, and would no more endure this wooden slavery than to suffer the flesh fly blow my mouth. Hear my soul speak. The very instant that I saw you, did my heart fly to your service. There resides to make me slave to it, and for your sake, I am this patient logman.
Do you love me?
O heaven, O earth, bear witness to this sound, and crown what I profess with kind event. If I speak true, I hallowly invert. What best is boded to me, to mischief, I beyond all limit of what else I the world do love, prize, honor you.
I'm a fool to weep of what I'm glad of.
Wherefore weep you?
At mine unworthiness that dare not offer what I desire to give, and much less take what I shall die to want. But this is tripping, and all the more it seeks to hide itself, the bigger bulk it shows. Hence bashful cunning, and prompt me, plain and holy innocence. I am your wife if you will marry me, but if not, I'll die your maid. To be your fellow, you may deny me, but I'll be your servant whether you will or no.
My mistress dearest, and I, thus humble ever.
My husband, then?
I, with a heart as willing as bondage ere freedom, here's my hand.
In mine, with my heart is it, and now farewell, till half an hour hence.
1,000,000.
The rest of the play ends with the men from the ship plotting to kill Prospero so they can rule the island. Alonso is convinced Prospero has killed his son Ferdinand. On another part of the island, Prospero asks Ariel to summon spirits that will perform a mask for Ferdinand and Miranda. Preparing for the men's attack against his life, Prospero and Ariel enchant some clothing that will scare them off as soon as they try to steal it. The last scene is of everyone on the island. Prospero vows to give up his magic for good, and he shows Alonso that Ferdinand is alive and soon to be married. Alonso begs for forgiveness and Prospero accepts. He invites them to stay the night before they all return to Milan, where he will regain the title of Duke. So this play was a lot shorter than a bunch of Shakespeare's other plays, but I don't necessarily think that's a negative thing.
And we both agree that this play was well put together and pretty easy to understand as well. This play, The Tempest, was more interesting than other plays we've read because it ended on a more positive note.
This play ended more in forgiveness and unity rather than a lot of death, such as Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet. It was nice to read a play from a different genre of Shakespeare than what we've previously read in the past.
If you're looking for a story that's easy to follow along with and ends happily, we highly recommend The Tempest.